Hey guys, so I'm back with another process video for you, and this time I chose the 6x6 stitched paper pad to begin with because I only have a little bit of it left and I want to use it up because I also want to use this container for another 6x6 paper pad. Okay, so I only have 4 sheets, full sheets left, and then I have some scraps and the little strips that like they're sort of like branding strips here. So I'm going to try and use most of these up on a layup today, and hopefully I will figure something out. So I will start making now. So I'm starting out by using these strips, and I'm just digging them out of that huge pile of paper, and I'm also going to cut some out. But I'm not sure in what direction I want to place them on the page. So I tried the horizontal, and then I thought I've done that quite a lot, and I should try something new. So I'm trying the vertical, but that didn't work either. And then I thought it would be cool to do a diagonal sort of stripe. So I'm playing with that idea. And I'm sorry it's a bit out of frame. I'm going to scooch it over in just a bit. And then I thought I could do like a big cross and have 2 diagonals, and I really like how that looked, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I haven't started yet, so I'm just randomly picking the patterns now because I just want to see what shape I want to do, and then I'm going to work out where I want each pattern. That's why you can see a bunch of blacks and grays next to each other. And like colors are not really well interspersed. I'm just using them to take up space at the moment. So I decided like the cross, but I'm not going to waste the pieces of paper in the middle where I know my photo is going to go. But before I start gluing stuff down, I knew I wanted to do some mixed media on the background just to add a bit more interest. So I'm starting by adding gesso in the crisscross section because I know that's where the mixed media is going to go, and it takes up most of the page, but it's not all of it, and I can still see the shape of the cross. So when I go to add the paint on it, I know not to go over where the gesso is. So I'm using a palette knife, and now I'm taking my set of watercolors, and I'm just trying to replicate the colors in the paper. So I'm starting with pink, and I'm mixing that bright pink with the white just to get a lighter color, but it's still too dark. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dab it with some kitchen towel so it gets a lighter pink. And it's not the same shade as the pink strips, but it's good enough. And then here I'm trying to replicate this green, and this one works out quite better. So I'm using blue, green, and white. And I'm just adding some in all of the places. So what I was doing though was I took a packaging, and at the first time I put a color, it's when there's more paint. So I would choose a specific, so if I put the first pink appliance, whatever it's called, on the one side, I will put the first blue on the other side, so that way not just one side will be super colorful and then the rest would have no color. So I hope that makes sense. I didn't really do a good job of explaining it. So that mixed media is done. So I changed my lights because the sun had set, which is, I'm sorry for that flickering there. I hope that didn't cause any problems to anybody. So now I'm placing my strips, and I'm a bit more conscientious about where the patterns, where I want the patterns to go. And I'm making sure that each space, I'm not being too picky about what colors are going to go, because by the time I decide where 20 strips of papers are going to go, would be like, I would be there for 30 hours. So I just tried to make sure that there was a blue, a green, a green, a yellow, what am I saying? A green, a gray, a black, and then either a red or like a yellow thick mustardy color. So yeah, so I stuck everything down with using this Bic white glue, and I cut most of that out because I don't think you want to see me gluing down a gazillion strips of paper. Then I went through my photos and I found these three and I thought they matched pretty well, and I knew I wanted to use two. So I'm just playing around with what combinations I can use and how I want to stick these photos down. So I decided that I want to stick them not in the center because there's that awkward square diamond look. I want to glue them down in the diagonal, in the way the diagonal strip flows. So I decide on using the two pictures with the coffee. And now I'm just seeing which one I want on top and which one on the bottom. And all my embellishments, journaling, and stuff is going to go in that same diagonal strip. The other strip that comes the other way is not going to have anything on it. It's just going to be a nice accent that fills the page. And I'm trimming down these photos as much as I can because I know I want to layer another piece of 4x6 paper, so I want quite a bit of that to show. So I'm just trying to trim down the photos as much as possible so I can get as much as possible paper peeking through, because I'm using that awesome green paper which I've been hoarding and I absolutely adore. So I keep cutting down the photos and I'm trying to find that perfect size so a lot of paper will show. And then I decided I was going to add another, like a sort of banner strip. No, it's not a banner. It's just a vertical strip behind the photo, and that's just a black and white. And that just brings in some more of the, it just accents the black strips throughout the page. And then I'm also going to bring in this pink because I don't have too much of that pink and I really like how it looks with the green. So I'm trying to spare every single piece possible, which is why I didn't use a huge strip. And plus you wouldn't be able to see that if I used a 4x6, if I used a 6x6 strip behind the 6x6 paper. So now I'm going through the Amy Tangerine stitch die cuts, and they're the ones that match the paper pad, obviously. So I'm just picking out some that I think might work on the layout, and I'm placing them on the page. Now I'm going to start playing around I'm still cutting down the photos. And I'm trying to get them at the same width, so they're not too weird looking, but they're not exactly the same in the end. And it's not the end of the world. I know it might make some people cringe, but I've learned to accept it because I can never get things straight. So yeah. So now I'm just gluing down the layers, and I'm trying to not to move the papers around too much so I don't lose where they were placed. So I keep moving the picture back and forth to see where those little strips of paper are supposed to go. And I'm using my ATG gun to do that. And the reason I didn't use the ATG gun on the strips were just because they were too thin, and I'm not a very good user of the ATG gun. I mean, I can't really draw straight lines, so if I used the ATG gun on the strips, it would have to be perfect straight lines, or else the tape would get everywhere. So, and also I was doing it on a gesso background, and usually the ATG doesn't have a problem with that from my experience, but I just wanted to make sure, so I used some white glue, which is a liquid glue. So now I'm trimming down the excess of those strips. And I decide that the photo was getting a bit lost, so I'm taking some gesso and I'm going to use my finger to cover up the some of the strips around the photo. Not all of them, just maybe one or two of the strips on all sides. And you don't lose the pattern, it just tones down the color a bit and makes the colors of the layers behind the photo pop just a bit more. And that just helps emphasize that whole cluster there and the photos. So I'm using white gesso for this, and I'm just rubbing it with my finger because that allows me to control it a lot better, and for this situation that is much easier than to use a huge palette knife. So now I'm playing around with what die cuts I want to use. So I place that green label at the bottom, the one that says Happy Day at the top, and then I cut that one in half just to have the like, and I'm sticking it up there for the time being. And then I'm sort of stuck, so I decide to glue down some of the things. And then I went to get my basket of embellishments, which I've since replaced. If you haven't seen my newest scrap room tour. So now I found this Project Life desktop waterfall chipboard set, and I wanted to add some more red accents. So I put that little pin in the photo, and I want to add something red in all the clusters. So I took this tab and added it at the top cluster, and I'm going to take, where is it? Let's see. This life piece, and I'm thinking about adding it there, but I'm not sure at this point what I want to do with it. So I'm just leaving it off to the side. And I'm really sorry for that glare there. As I said, the lighting is a bit weird. So now that I'm sort of stuck, I move on to a different element while my brain thinks how I want to finish off the embellishment clusters. So I knew my title was going to be Starbucks Lovers, and I also wanted to use a nice bold black thicker so the title would stand out, and it would also accent again the black paper in the strips and in the layers. It's just that bold pop that you need sometimes. And I'm not gluing these straight right away because I know I'm probably going to move them quite a bit around, and if I glue them down straight, it would just take more time. I would just waste time. So where those stickers are now, there's a lot of trap space that I don't know how I would fill. So I decide to take out that die cut piece, and thankfully I can get it off without doing too much damage. And I'm going to bring down the title just a bit. So now I'm straightening everything out because I really like how that looks. And I don't use a ruler just because that makes it harder for me for some reason. Whenever I try to measure something, it always turns out wrong. So I just give up in measuring and I eyeball it. It always works better for me that way. And there's still a bit of trap space up there next to the word lovers, but I'm going to fix that in just a bit. So I'm adding some more adhesive onto the layers because I had barely put any earlier, just in case I wanted to move something. And now I'm going to go through my embellishment basket again, and I find that sticker book, but there isn't really anything I want to add to this page. So I pull out those hearts, and I'm just flipping through everything, trying to see if there's anything else I want to add. So I took one of this purple heart and put it up there, and then I took this purple speech bubble because since I put purple up there, I had to add purple in some other spots. So I chop it up, and I'm layering it behind. I'm like backing that little heart empty space in that chipboard piece, and then I'm also backing some of the letters. So I think I'm doing O. And you can't really see it on camera. Maybe it's just my tiny screen because I'm recording this on my phone. But it adds a really nice accent. Hopefully it will be more visible in the pictures. So I did O, E, and B. And then I'm adding some enamel hearts. And these are from Webster's Pages. And I'm not sure if they were from the Dream in Color or from the hashtag Happy Set by Allison Craft. And then I really felt like this page needed a black border, so I knew I had a piece of black pattern paper from the Atwell collection, and this is called the Lush paper. But when I placed it down, I was a bit hesitant because the black is sort of like a different shade of black than the letters and the other paper, but I decided that it's okay, and I like it better with the border. So I also thought of using the back side of that, but I just went with the black because I was introducing a whole new color and it just didn't ground the page. So I'm gonna do a fatal mistake here and use ATG to glue this down, which means I can't lift it up if I glue it on sideways, and that is exactly what I did. So I learned my lesson, and next time I'm not going to use my ATG gun for this kind of thing.